Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Conversations at the Well. We are so excited because we have our first guest. Yay! This is Vernon's mom. We will introduce her more in our episode, but join us as we talk about Crossroads, how to make the decision of what stays and what goes when you're making these big decisions in life. So, grab a chair and join us.
Hey there, before we get into this episode, I want to remind you to like, comment, and get subscribed if you're joining in with us on YouTube.
Don't forget.
We would love to have this conversation be a two-way conversation,
Yes.
not just us talking, because you may never make it into one of these chairs, but we certainly still want to have a conversation with you. So like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the rest of the episode. Welcome back to Conversations at the Well. I am so excited today. I don't know about you, but we have our first guest, and I happen to know her for a long time.
Yeah.
She goes by
How
a
long?
lot of names. Lady Ida some. We have Coach Ida others. But would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Well, my name is Yvette Allen, and this creation of is my son. That's my baby son. So.
You made it sound like you weren't sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing.
Well,
Yeah.
depends on who you ask.
And we had her introduce herself because we can't say Yvette. It's just disrespectful. So this is mom. She's mom today.
Yes.
For y'all could call her mom. And is that okay? I just said that. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, so were you gonna continue? I'm sorry.
No, that was
I just
it.
jumped in.
I said
Okay,
my part.
He said his part. Okay, so on this episode, as we talked about, this is about Crossroads. This is about, and really this is personal to me because I find myself at a crossroads right now where we're getting to the end of the year, and it's a time of reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when y'all know how you have these things at work where you have your annual review or whatever,
Trying to get that bonus.
y'all get bonuses anyway. We don't get bonuses. We get the pay you came in. You get the pay that you get.
You get what you get.
You get
and don't
what you-
pitch your fit.
Correct. But I'm grateful for it. Thank you to my employer. So in any case, in doing that reflection and kind of thinking about my career, I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all know I've been trying to rid myself of some things that I don't necessarily need anymore, but I'm also having trouble deciding what should stay and what should go. And so I find myself at this crossroads professionally, but this is also something that can happen personally in your life.
Let me be the first to say your job should stay.
Oh,
Just
absolutely.
let's get that out there.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure.
There was no question of that.
Okay.
So it wasn't the main thing, but it's really like some of the extra things that I do that aren't necessary. They aren't necessary. Some of them I enjoy doing, some of them I don't enjoy doing. And then there's some things that I enjoy, but other than enjoyment, they don't serve any purpose. And then there's some things I don't enjoy, but they have more impact, if I can say that.
Which applies to your job, but also as we go through life, it
Yeah.
seems like the same things are always around.
Absolutely.
Things that we feel like we have to do, things that we kind of put on ourselves as our own responsibility.
Yep.
And those things that we just fill our calendars and clocks with that aren't needed at all, but we're still doing them.
Yes. So we decided to bring some more wisdom to the table because she has life experience that can help inform us, inform me, because it's about me today.
Go take a whole episode to yourself.
This is about anyone else who is listening who is kind of finding themselves in a similar situation. And so, Mom, I wanted to bring you into the conversation and wanted to kind of get well, first of all, I'm sure you have. This is going to be not a redundant, but I want you to just expand on this question just to kind of give us some insight into your life when you've had to make some of these type of decisions. But when have you been at a crossroads and what were you trying to decide between?
Okay. So as the two of you know, and for the audience, I was a widow. And so life did transition at one point or another.
Stop. Stop.
I know I got to get my joke off. So you wasn't with, so you brought him back? I'm sorry.
I knew this is where this was going.
I'm sorry. It's okay. It's my dad, so it's okay.
It's going to be one of those conversations.
I had to. It just you threw it slow and over the plate.
Actually, you brought up a good point because I do recall when during my first marriage, he had found himself where his job had closed down. And so he kept sending out, application after application after application, and nothing was happening. And so I sat there and I'm like, do you think that at this time it's the time to start looking, maybe expanding your search? Because I do believe that in everything, God has a plan.
So wait, so there was a point in which job had closed down,
right?
And he's looking for another job.
Yes.
And naturally you kind of look in the city that you're in.
Absolutely.
But over some period of time, nothing was happening.
Absolutely.
Oh, so that's like a real crossroad.
Yeah.
Like we over here talking about fun job projects.
Right. Yeah. Should I still do this or should I not? Or should we move across the country?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as now that I've gone through it and I had a chance to look at it, my question to him was, well, have you expanded your search? And he's like, well, no. And I'm like, well, why don't you expand your search? So he did, because he was desperate.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that it was indeed God that was positioning him for that, because at the same time, you were getting ready to leave for college. And in the midst of you getting ready to leave for college, because you had entered school so early, you were only 16. And, our African-American young men, it is very hard to get them through college. At that time, the biggest statistic that was staying in my mind is it's more likely for you to end up in jail than to complete college. And I said, the devil is a lie. That is not going to happen. So as he expanded his search, he did end up finding something in North Carolina. And as you know now, that's where you went to school. So we were able to move as a family to North Carolina. He got the job. You had the, kind of close watching that you needed to get you through school. And so I do believe it was more of a plan of God, even though I said, I'm at a crossroads, but I think it was a God-led crossroad.
That's a really great example. Okay. Yeah. So because that was such a big thing.
Something smaller?
No. Well, I guess what were you all... You talked about some of the factors. You talked about the job search. You talked about you had a child still in the home that was about to go to college. Were there any other factors that you were considering? Because just for background, they are from Dover, Delaware. Yes. Yes, there are people from Dover, Delaware.
Correction,
they are here.
The great state. The first state.
The first state.
Of Dover, Delaware.
We'll go with first.
Yes.
Because that can't be argued. Yes.
Neither can great.
Okay, so, but, anyway, your family is there, were you working there at that time?
I was indeed. And that's another part of it, because for me, when it comes to making decisions about, I'm in a crossroad, I look at the things that have to stay. Now, because of course at that point we were a one-income family, I had to work. So even though it was, it sounds like it just kind of laid out nicely, and it did, there was a period where after he went, Vernon, who was finishing up school at the time, and me working at the time, we were still located in North Carolina. So the factors kind of led us to where we needed to be. If you ever find yourself at a crossroad, just look at the things that cannot change. We had to have income coming in to pay the bills. So I had to work. So at that point, we knew I had to stay there. He was still in school. He had to finish school. So he had to stay here. My husband got a job, so he had to go. So it wasn't like, oh, let me, decide this. It was really all of the factors that had to be in that same place.
I forgot about that period.
You wanted to. You were entering into college, so yeah, I'm sure you wanted to forget it. But yeah.
But I think the cool principle out of that's applicable both in huge situations and even your situation is the first step of a crossroads when you recognize that you're there is find all the stuff that can't move. Like it's almost if you're walking into a room with no lights on, like where are the walls? Like how can I steady myself? Find those things that have to stay in place. And I think even that exercise takes a little bit more wisdom than a lot of us have.
Right.
Because we look at some things and say, I have to do this. And it's like, ain't nobody tell you to do that. or nobody's making you do those things. So it takes a really sober view to say what really can't move in my life. And then from there, from that anchor, from that bedrock or foundation, then you can start making your other decisions. But so often, even when we try to do that very simple thing, what we identify as, oh, I got to do this, I got to go here, I got to support this. It's like, no, that ain't your responsibility.
So I love that, because what you all are talking about are some of the things that are, I guess, the foundations of the decision, right? Like the things that, like you said, have to happen. So you got to, money has to come in. Okay. We cannot just be out here. That's one thing. And then, taking care of the children, like if you happen to be a part of a family where there are children, so making sure that their educational needs are met and, their, whatever they have going on is also taken care of, where it's as least disruptive to their lives as possible. Not to say that their lives won't be disrupted, because we can talk about our moving story and that was a little bit disruptive. But there were still some things that could not change even in that. So that talks about like the needs, like if we talk about hierarchy of like importance, the prioritization of what's going on in the situation. There's the needs there. Go ahead.
Before you go to the next level up, go into your situation. I think that's a real life example. Like, what are the needs? I would think your first need would be, I need to do my job well enough to keep it. But then I think we get into the gray area of the decision. Is it about keeping the job? Is it about excelling in the job? Like, where is the need? Where is the foundation? And I would like to hear you kind of talk about that.
Well, it's kind of why I was going into that next portion, because like I said, some things that I've done are simply because I like to do it. And we talk about that, where does that go on this hierarchy of what to keep and what not to keep? And like I said, there's some things that are maybe more impactful but less enjoyable. And so from a career standpoint, with wanting to continue to grow, wanting to continue to advance in my career, some of those things still need to be on the table because they simply are impactful. And that's where I am, and I'm like, which things to let go of? Do you just simply, I guess I have to figure out what my goal is right now.
Well, and I think you said something smart there. Like, I don't even think you're like, the idea of pushing stuff off of your plate through this exercise, you're not even there yet. You're still just trying to figure out where everything is.
What do I have and where are they?
So first, what has to get done? I got to do my job, figure out what other widgets go along with that. And then the next will be whatever the next level you were going to talk about with
that. So I guess the first thing.
Your brow is furrowed.
Well, are you talking about, again, excelling at the job or doing your job? I still don't know what the subject is. Okay, so with my job,
which I am not going to disclose on this podcast, but with my job, there's like my basic job, the job description that was written and I applied for that job. That's the job foundationally. But then there are other things, like kind of volunteer things that you can do as a part of not the core job, but just like other things that you might have interest in. So there are employee groups, there are maybe initiatives, and you're helping to forward the initiative for the organization. I can say this. So for example, the wellness committee, right?
I think we already talked about that you were a stripper. I'm just messing. You just made it sound so serious. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not.
I'm here for
just for anybody who might think that was a real comment, that was not. It was a joke. Okay, I'm not.
That's your husband.
You were talking about pushing forward the organization. I just
push forward the organization.
What organization you're pushing forward.
It doesn't matter what organization I'm pushing forward. People in big organizations know that there are other things that go on. I mean, smaller organizations may not have as many of these little optional things to do. But in any case, so I'm on the wellness committee, and one of the things is like we do presentations for the division. We do, anyway, we do presentations for the part of the organization we're in, or we might do like some initiatives like, I don't know, get active this month, like a month of activity or something like that. Just
which isn't a part of your job.
Which is not a part of my job.
But it's just separate stuff.
It helps with morale. It helps with just productivity in the long run. People are active and they are enjoying their work. They tend to do their work better. So all of those things, there is impact, but I do it because I like wellness. So that's just one of the things that I have done. There are other things where I'm actually the lead of a committee, and this is actually developing policy or influencing policy changes within.
Which isn't a part of your job.
But this is not a part of my job. Okay. But it just happens to be influencing how the division that I work in operates, and including some things that help with just supporting our staff members in it. So these are like just volunteer things like, hey, we have this thing going on. Is there anyone interested in joining this committee to help forward these things? Now, why would anybody do this is a question that I know y'all both are looking at me like, why do you do these things? Well, although it's not a part of my job, with the type of job I have, showing leadership,
advancement.
And helps with career advancement. Being involved, being an asset to the place where you are, helps with job advancement. It makes you a more valuable resource
because you do all this extra stuff for free
at the organization. Because I do all the extra stuff for free, and I'm good at it, or I'm enjoying it, or whatever the case may be. Either way, it can help in that side of things. So it is not my daily, I need to check in on this committee every day. That's not it, but I do all these things. But I do a lot of these things. And so I'm like, all right. So the first things first, the things that I don't enjoy and are not very impactful, I'm cutting those first. I already know that. But for some of the other things where it is kind of this war between how much it is going to help with advancement and how much I enjoy it, I'm kind of in this pool of what do I keep? Or what do I let go? Or do I let go of all of it and just start from scratch? That's another option. Okay. Not the job, though.
Right. No. I guess my question is, why do you feel you have to let go? If you enjoy it, why do you feel you have to let go of that?
I'm the type of person, when they ask me, would you like to participate in this thing? I'm like, oh, sounds good. Sure. So I've raised my hand for too many things, essentially. I just have. It's not, I just can't keep it all and continue to do well in the way that I want to at my basic job, the job I was hired for. So in order to have the time to advance in that and be the best in that, I have to let go of some of the extra.
Okay. Say something, Vernon. Okay. I'm still processing. Because I'm looking in a different direction.
Yeah.
But I want to hear what he has to say because he lives with you and y'all are married, so he has a better insight.
I don't know if it's better. But no. But I think once again, I think your main thing has to be your main thing. What can't move, and the performance of your basic role. Even if you're amazing and all this extra stuff, if you don't get your high marks in your basic role, it's not going to mean anything.
Right.
So I think at the foundational level, you can't stack so much on the next level that it cracks the foundation. So that's number one. Yeah. Figuring out what it is that you can manage. And then number two is balancing between what you enjoy and what's going to be most impactful. Maybe not even in your own eyes, but in the eyes of those who you think will aid in pushing forward your career. If that's the goal and why you're doing this, in addition to just enjoyment, then I think figuring out what's going to move that needle the most, that's going to have the most impact, will be super important.
Yeah. And you said something, like not piling so much on that the foundation gets cracked. And I won't say that it's like cracked, but I will say I feel like I just need to put some more attention there so it doesn't crack. And the main reason is because there's been a lot of ebbs and flows in my daily job, in the sense of not just like the amount of, not the workload, well, yes, the workload, but also like we had a lot of staffing changes. Like I started all of these collateral duties is what we call them. So I started all of those things under different leadership when the job was a little bit different, where I think now I'm being, I don't know if necessarily required. I think that's too strong of a word, but I think the expectations are a little different. And so I want to meet them.
Yeah.
Or not just meet them. I want to exceed them. I want to be great at this in my eyes, but also in the eyes of those who make decisions about my performance and just in general.
So step 1, find all the stuff that doesn't move.
Yes.
Identify what has to happen.
Yes.
And then I think step 2 is then you start to address all the, I'll call non-necessary, although you may call necessary because it's important for you to like the stuff you do and all the other things. Identify what those are and then start to prioritize them as either not mattering or maybe mattering a little bit or mattering a lot to you.
I see a matrix in my head right now. It's like, okay, it's not that complicated. It's just like, if you imagine a box with four quarters. So then there's like most impactful, most enjoyable, most impactful, least enjoyable, least enjoyable, least impactful, least whatever the other thing is that goes in that fourth corner. And then kind of like just putting the pieces and the things. And of course, the things that are most impactful, most enjoyable, that is where you want to be. And then the other two, kind of those diagonal corners, that's the part I don't know.
So let me ask you this then. The thing that you really enjoy,
Yes.
would that move the needle as it pertains to your job?
No.
Oh. Yeah, I see why we have a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, even as she was talking through the quadrants of most impactful and most enjoyable, I mean, maybe y'all love y'all job with like a different kind of love, but I don't think that they're most often in the same place for most people who have jobs.
Yeah.
Like most impactful for the well may be me sitting down and crunching numbers and thinking about a calendar a year in advance.
Not
Is that
fun.
enjoyable? No.
Not
No,
fun.
I don't want to do that. So I think the most enjoyable and most impactful are at times at odds with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so also because I know I have to do this on top of my daily job too.
And I think that's even a key statement. Like, I have to do this. Do you have to do this?
I think the expectation for advancement, I do think that there's an expectation that you're doing at least something that, and maybe I need to reevaluate what is included in that something bucket.
And that's where our conversation often goes back to. Like, there's an expectation that I have to do this to get that. And my thing is, what happens if you don't? Like, literally what happens? And I think there have been times where you do a lot of stuff and advancement still doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So for what?
It's a great question.
So your most impactful and most enjoyable would probably be way different than mine, because mine is, okay, what I need to keep this job and keep getting my bump in salary. Like that's a completely different metric than everything that people portray that you have to do to get to the next level. It's like, I don't know if I subscribe to that.
But I also think that a lot of that goes back to the areas how you were raised. A lot of times I don't think people put a lot of effort or thought into, you were raised that, well, I don't care if you like it, you got to do it. That's just what you do. Where she was raised more of, find something that you love and do it. And it was flowery. It was beautiful.
Is that the flowery voice?
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was flowery. It's like, I want to feel good about it. When I feel good, I do my best job, which there's nothing wrong with that. But as we get older, we often marry opposite. That's the first thing. You're the flower, he's the storm in the rain.
Storm in the rain.
But you water her and she flourishes, she grows. So there we go.
You need that.
And
flowers need water.
And she brings the beautiful softness to you where you can appreciate what, beauty you guys create together. So here's the thing. I think for you, if it was him, I think the answer would be different. Because for you, it's important that you have an attachment. So it is necessary for you to have that part that you enjoy. And I don't want you to, downplay that, because it helps you to do a better job when you get over here and you have the thing that you don't like. So I think that's a necessity. Where I would look into making changes is not necessarily the job, because again, it's necessary that you enjoy a certain part of it, because that helps you to do the hard things. I would look at how can I free up more time over here where I will have time to do that. Because for you, I think it's a necessity. For you, I think results is what what drives you.
What do you think?
That's completely opposite of how I would come at it. But it's so
you ain't gotta like it, just do it.
Well, no, mine would be like, none of this stuff is required. Why are you doing it? Like, the thing I tell her is, does it impact your paycheck? No. What are you doing it for? Like, you work for a check, and if it doesn't impact your check, like, what are you doing for it?
It doesn't impact my check. Like, I don't get paid to do these extra things.
Yeah, it doesn't impact your check.
In that moment. But
I guess it literally doesn't impact your check.
Well,
it does in the long run, is what she's saying.
It's the showing of leadership, the showing of advancement and readiness for the next level that is part of what I do. And it can, I guess there are ways that it can be done in the day-to-day job, and perhaps I need to look for more opportunities in that regard, and kind of maybe I can get rid of some of the other extra stuff, but it doesn't impact it in that moment, but it's kind of a longer term goal and outcome that I'm looking for. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't impact your check. Like,
okay.
And I mean, and you could say in the future, sometime when the wind blows, I'm gonna get a raise or whatever, and it sounds good, but
it's not guaranteed.
Like, so you kill yourself for 5 years for a chance, which still probably may not come.
And you have a very good point, because that is what I've been talking to some of my coworkers and colleagues about, is like, there has been anyway, this idea that you do all these things, and it eventually will lead you to what you want, which is advancement. And then we have found that a lot of people have been doing all the things and have not been advancing. And so that has been another part of the Crossroads, where it's like, I need to reckon. I need to figure out what am I doing and why am I doing it, and all of that.
Yes, go there. Go there. Yes.
Okay, for me, when it comes to that type of situation, I always look not where I'm at, not where I begun, but in the end. When it's time that I realize I'm not going to get the promotion, when I look back, when I decide to make a change and I look back, I want to make sure that I did everything that I was supposed to do. Because when you stop doing, and then the advancement doesn't come, you always question, was it that I didn't do enough? And so I think that knowing your personality, who you are, that'll also help. Because for me, if I did everything I was supposed to do along the way, I don't have a problem with walking away and saying, okay, well, just wasn't right. But you know that I did what I was supposed to do. And when I leave, I know that you miss what I bought. But that's just for my inner self, the inner fulfillment of myself to say.
I think that's a two-sided coin, though.
Okay.
I think you can look at that side, but I also think there's a side to look at to say, not did I do everything, but was it worth it? Because you're talking about all of these, like holding 3 jobs at one time in order to show yourself as worthy of a promotion. I think if you look back and there's a conversation to say, did I do enough? But I think there's also a conversation to say, was it worth it? Like, am I okay with what I invested now with the knowledge of it coming up empty?
Yeah.
Can I say that is such a male perspective?
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Why?
absolutely.
You think so?
I do.
Why?
Because men have the ability to just cut off and go, and they're okay. But a woman wants to know that she's done everything that she could. And so it's really different in how women, go about things versus men. Yeah, because we get emotionally attached.
Yeah. I've seen it on the other side too, though, similarly to what he's describing, where I know of women who've been like, I did all of these things and it cost me. It cost me things. It cost me time with my family. I wasn't able to do this, or maybe maybe I was going to get married or wanted to get married, and perhaps because my career was careering, I did that. I missed that particular opportunity at that time. Maybe it'll come back around. But I do think that there is a worth it question that I am also grappling with, because we have these things going on. We have our business, we have our small children, we have our marriage and our family, we have like our extended family, and all of these things are demanding. Sounds very strong, but they're demanding of at least some time in order to keep the relationships and the things going. And I still have a full-time job and a half, or 2 perhaps, depending on how you look at it. So I am, again, what is worth it? Like, what is going to stand at the end of it all, and will I be okay with the outcomes of whatever I chose?
I think that's the second principle. The first principle was, what do I have to get done? And I think the second following principle, in which there's no rhyme or reason, you just have to figure it out what works for you, is what will I be okay looking back on and not having regrets?
Yeah.
And whether that's, I should have done more, or whether that's I sacrificed too much, whatever it looks like, what are you willing to do or not do? Fast forward to the end of the road, look back and say, I still stand by that. What can I live within myself? Yeah. And I think when you look at it through that lens, like, okay, if I don't get my bonus because I made this decision, am I okay?
Right.
That's if I do get my bonus because I made this decision, am I okay?
Yeah.
And if you can look back at your decision point with that level of, all right, I can accept it, then I think that's your whittled down list of things that you do, but not a thing more, not a thing less.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really
It doesn't make it any easier to figure out, like, how much is enough and how little is enough. But I think for you to make any decision, and mostly the difficult decisions, if we get down the road and this thing just catches on fire and burns, what do I need to do for me to be in that moment and be like, I did all I can do, to go back to what you said? Because life is going to burn. Some stuff is going to burn up.
Yeah.
But for us to get to that point and still be okay, we have to make decisions with that in mind, and not just end up there and it's like, oh wait, I wish I would have done this. Well, why didn't you think about that before?
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of wisdom, and I'm like having a, okay, that I think will help both. Actually, I think all of this will help with this decision. Oddly enough, some of the other decisions that were actually more major seem to be less difficult to make.
Sometimes major decisions, because they have like real consequences, are easier. Like there may be more at risk, but they're easier to make, because it's like, well, it's only this or that, and that's bad, so let me do this. It's like, you can, to go back to your example, like we can stay here and apply and never end up having anything else, or I can widen my search and see what happens there. Like, it's there, the implications of it are much more disruptive, to use your word, but it's a little bit easier because it's black or white.
Yeah.
Am I going to swim or I'm going to sink?
Yeah.
So what you gonna do? You gonna swim or you gonna sink?
I'm swimming.
Now the question is, what does that mean?
What am I swimming in? I don't know. I got to figure out what I'm swimming in. Where are my floaties? Like, we good? Are we good? But yeah, that's an interesting realization for me anyway. That I'm like, I feel like the decision to move our family from one state to another
was a whole lot easier
than like, what do I take off my plate? And they're like inconsequential. Well, I won't say inconsequential totally, but like comparatively speaking, the consequences are quite low.
But I think that was more of a spiritual thing.
Yes.
And for you, and that's just like what Vernon was saying, as far as the way I always summed it up is, what are you willing to die for? And my thing
that escalated quickly.
It's like, if I make this decision, and let's say if I have to, someone comes back and questions me, let's say in 5 to 10 years, would I be willing to stand by and die for that same decision? And if you are, then that's the route you go. And for me, I always ask myself, if I was standing before God and I made this decision, would I still make the same decision? And like I said, when it was time to move, you knew that was a God moment. And so you were like, oh no, I'm not going to stand up in front of God and say, I didn't do it.
That is very true. That was very true. And so I guess we've talked about like these different levels of decision making. Like, some are kind of life and death, if you will. Like, I need to feed my family, so we're gonna have to move from this place because the pond is small, and so are the options, and so we need to go to a bigger pond to have bigger options so we can support the family. Or is God telling us to move, or is God not telling us to move? Okay, he's telling us to move. Well, we probably should move. If we don't, I mean, maybe something will happen, maybe it won't, but there's the eternal consequences of that. And this is not eternal, what I'm dealing with, but it is important to me.
As I was thinking through because as you talked about levels of decisions, you got like the big stuff, the God stuff, if you will. You have like the moving a family, then you have, your job, and maybe what do you buy versus not buy.
And what do you have for dinner?
But I think sometimes we magnify the big decisions too much to make them look more difficult, and then we minimize the small decisions too much to make them look too small.
Okay.
And I think if we can find a balance in having equal value of all decisions, then we might actually start making progress on our goals. Because a lot of times the goals that go year after year that we never ever meet are because it's those small decisions that we so minimize the importance of that it contradicts the integrity, to use your word, of what our goals are. Like, think about it. Does it matter whether I get this or that for dinner? Well, it may not matter to you, but what would the person who's been trying to lose weight for the last 15 years and looks at their mirror and hates themselves because they're not where they want to be?
Yeah.
Well, that person would say it's really important, but you in the moment says, I want fries with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of our decisions are tied to our broader goals, but because we minimize them so much, sometimes that's the reason why we can never make progress.
You see how this podcast goes? We'll be in here just talking about something else, and then it's like real, like, heavy. But not heavy and like, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I was thinking of examples, like, does it matter if I eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the middle of the night? Well, I mean, I've worked out. Lebroski killed me today, so I can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But December 31st, 2024, when I go and turn the pages back to my January 1 goals, am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I where I want to be? And did that decision matter? Well, in the moment I said no. But when I'm sitting there December 31 and saying I'm still not where I want to be, it mattered a whole heck of a lot.
But so often, I think we focus so much on the end goal that we don't think about the process.
Okay.
Because I also went through the journey of weight loss, and I used to, sit there and it's like, I'm going to get to this weight, I'm going to get to this weight, I'm going to get to this weight, and I failed. And finally, by the time I made it to 54, I just sat there and I looked at myself one day and I'm like, forget it. I am not going to live the rest of my life this size. And my frustration led me to, I'm going to do one thing that I know that I can do for the rest of my life to get this thing under control. And I'm not worried about the weight. I'm worried about the process. And so I began to focus on the process. And the process for me was, I have to get up every morning and walk. That's the process. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not thinking about eating. I'm not thinking about weight loss. I'm just thinking about every morning that I get up, I will walk. And to kind of compare it to what you're saying, Desireé, it's every morning or every day, I need to put aside this amount of time to get done what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to add anything in. I'm not going to add anything, take the place of it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to focus in on this one thing, the process, not the goal, but the process.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
It sounds like you just took that decision and said, forget that. Yeah. This decision that I make every day is going to be the most important decision that I make.
Yeah.
And if I take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good. Yay. All food for thought, things to consider, and it helped me to actually make my choices that I need to make for in this moment, for this time. But also, I know this is seasonal. Like, it's something we talk about reflection a lot on this show, and so it's like I came to this because I was reflecting, because I'm in the season of, okay, I'm being assessed for my performance and all of that stuff, and you have to write about like what you did and the impact and all that stuff. And so it's like, okay, well, what did I do, and did it make a difference? And so all of those things have led to this. All right, it's time to cut bait on some stuff. It's time to maybe I'm seeing an area where I need to like bolster and do more activity in this particular area. Maybe some of that other stuff, although it was enjoyable, it served its purpose and the season for it is over. And maybe the season will come back around, but maybe it won't. But I think that's certainly what prompted the thought, the conversation, and the angst around making these decisions about what to keep and what not to keep.
So to boil everything down.
Boil it down.
I think we came up with 3 main principles.
Okay.
Number 1, when you come to a crossroads, find the things that don't move and identify what matters and what cannot change.
Yes.
Number 2, we talked about making your decisions as to what you pile on top of that based upon what you can look back on and live with yourself with. And then I think point number 3, what you just said, is recognize your life as a bunch of seasons. And with each season, you need to go back and reassess, because every new season brings forth new change, and every new change may change that priority list as it was before.
And interestingly enough, because of the decision that was made, like in your example, the decision that you made to just walk, you actually did experience some weight loss and some changes in your life. Your health improved. All of these different things happened. And some of the things that you had, maybe some clothes or some old habits, they just were no longer useful anymore because
Season.
Yeah, it was a different season. So that's really cool. Okay. I don't know. Y'all have so much wisdom. Is there more y'all got to say, to tell me?
Just everything out of me.
I think it was good. I really appreciate your thoughts, your input into this. You're invited to come back.
You're gonna invite her back?
Yeah, we got to think of something else.
You know, the first time they're on their best behavior. The second time, it's.
Well, listen. I'm sure you will reveal more of yourself as you become more comfortable.
I like the perspective. I like the young perspective and the old perspective, because years will eventually change your perspective.
Yeah.
So.
And we know that old stuff don't work anyway.
Yeah, but I appreciate it as well. The wisdom. Clearly, y'all know Vernon, and he drops these nuggets, but this lady right here, that's where he gets it from. But this is good. If there's anything you want to come back and talk about, maybe you can come up with a topic and we can do that. That'd be fun.
I think it'd be awesome.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us. Tell us about your Crossroad experiences. We want to know like what you have been warring with, what you have to make a decision about, and how you made that. So put it in the comments, like, subscribe, share, send it to somebody who is in a Crossroad situation because they might get something out of it. I think this is a good one.
Yeah, you should be that friend to be like, you need this.
You need this. I heard this and I thought of you. So whatever it takes, we would love that. Yeah.
If they do respond, is there any possibility that you guys will?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We listen.
It's been a few topics where we've gotten from comments, just people asking questions, or a lot of people don't want to put it online, so they'll text
Right.
us. So that'll become the next conversation. But if you have topics or anything you think you want to hear about, put it in there. We'll certainly make that our next conversation. Now we're a few weeks ahead as far as recording, so it may be a little while.
Yeah.
But we'll certainly add it into the rotation.
Yeah, but please do comment, like, subscribe, share. And what was it? Oh yeah, one of these days, I'm putting this on camera because this is a goal of mine. I want to do this live. Like, I would love to have an audience to be here and to like ask the questions so we can incorporate that like as we're actually doing it.
Yeah.
So that's like a longer term goal. I don't know how long, maybe. I don't know if long term in this regard will be like a few months from now or like a few years from now, but we'll see how it all unfolds because there's a process that's happening right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for joining us for Conversations at the Well, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.